Greetings all who roam this world, I'm Anthony, and today I'm alone and I'm going to be doing something different than our normal video game type stuff, but it's also still kind of video game related. Today I will be reviewing the movie Ready Player One, directed by Steven Spielberg, based on the book by Ernest Cline. I will be spoiling a lot of the movie and a lot of the book, so I will do a first non-spoiler of anything before we get into depth of the whole movie itself. To give an overall summary of this book, this story takes place in 2025 in Columbus, Ohio, with a kid named Wade Watts. He sits at home, doesn't really have much money or anything, he's kind of poor, but in this future, virtual reality is now the thing that everyone uses to survive, to work, to go to school, everything. And the creator of it, James Halliday, has now passed away in 2045, and in his death he left this huge contest where he has hidden like an Easter egg, like a video game Easter egg, in this massive universe, online universe, for one person to find. But the way they find it is with a copper key, a jade key, and a crystal key. With those keys you get clues and hints, and you kind of just gotta figure it out from there to hopefully win the grand prize, which is complete control of the Oasis, which is what the virtual reality world is called, and basically $500 billion. Then there are also these bad guys called the IOI, who are trying to take control of the Oasis for money purposes. They're just the big bad businessmen. To not spoil anything, but still talk about the movie, it's a good movie. It's a great movie, I should say. It's got tons of references in it that if you're a geek, if you're a nerd, you'll understand them. It's a fun movie. There's comedy, there's action, there's horror at some points. It's a good time, and I really enjoyed it. There's a lot happening. The movie does a really good job of bringing the virtual reality part into the real world at the same time. So like there's the CGI characters walking in the real world, and it looks really good. And I was really surprised about how well that turned out. And they do it a lot, and that's the point of the movie. See, now it's kind of hard for me to think of things without spoiling the book or the movie. So we're gonna go into the spoiler now. So here, spoiler warning right here, right? Yeah, right here. So click away if you don't want any spoilers. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, blah blah blah. I'll wait for you to click out. Okay, hopefully you're gone. So here's my full spoiler review. This is gonna be a lot more in depth than what I just did. So yeah, let's get started. So before I actually get into the movie, looking at it compared to the book, it's a completely different story. And I understand that there's a lot of copyrights that weren't able to happen and everything, and yeah, that's totally fine. But like, there was a lot of stuff that was cut out, and I'm gonna compare and contrast them, what worked, what didn't work, and all that fun stuff. So right from the beginning, in the movie, Wade Watts is just a guy who's chilling out. He lives at home. He's not doing so well in his home life. He needs money. His family needs money. He's an orphan, basically. He lives with his aunt. But he doesn't really... They have no showing of his education or what he does besides going to the Oasis every day. In the book, though, it shows that he goes to school. He's a senior in high school, and he's just trying to get out of there. He's got no money in the game. He can't really go anywhere besides the home planet called Ludus, which is where all the schools are really run. As we go on into the movie, a couple more minutes in, we are introduced to H, Wade's best friend, or Parzival, Wade's character. And H is going off on other worlds. He's competing, he's kicking ass, and that's what H does. I really appreciated that. But in that scene where we're being introduced to H, we also see Daito and Shoto when they're not even supposed to be relevant towards halfway through the book, which was a little bit upsetting, but sure, fine. They're good characters in the game, in the whole Oasis world, so yeah, they're gonna somehow pop up early on. So as we go on to this contest that James Halliday has created, Wade talks about how someone just figured out this clue and a portal appeared where this giant race was. To find the copper key in the book, it was that there was a whole Dungeons and Dragons dungeon built on Ludus, the planet that everyone goes to school on. And Wade somehow figured it out by researching all of Halliday's video games, books, movies, everything, And then he found that this dungeon was on the planet. He goes in there and versus a skeleton in a game of Joust and wins first try. As Parzival is leaving, Artemis then is at the entrance waiting for the skeleton to respawn so she can verse it, because she has apparently failed a couple times. But in the movie, it's just a race, and nobody's been able to make it to the end. The only reason Parzival was able to defeat the skeleton in Joust was because he had studied it for years, basically. Months, if even. But in the movie, he was able to win the race just because he looked back on a memory from James Halliday saying, "Why can't we go backwards?" So he just went backwards in the race and got the copper key. So I understand, yeah, they probably couldn't get rights from Wizards of the Coast for Dungeons & Dragons, or they couldn't get the rights for Joust, even though they got the rights for Adventure later on, so I don't think that might have been a problem. But it was probably the whole Dungeons & Dragons thing. But a big part of that beginning was that Wade was a nobody. He went to school. He was trying to get out of there. He didn't want to be there. And none of that was told. And I feel like that took away from a big part of the movie. As we go on in the movie, Parzival and Artemis have started to become friends, but you don't really see their characters develop together as much. It kind of just happens, which is a really dumb thing to happen in a movie to not have any character development, because I think that was really important to the book as well, is showing how those characters grew together and became in love with each other. When Parzival and Artemis are looking for the Jade Key, they go back to the archives of James Halliday's memories, and they find that Halliday had a crush on a girl, and they only mentioned her name once out of all of the archives. Parzival then challenges the creator, saying that's the only time the name has ever been mentioned, and the creator challenges him back, saying no, that it's been mentioned more than once at least. So then the creator looks through it and doesn't find anything except the one scene that they were just talking about. And he's like, alright, you win. Here's a quarter. Flips him a quarter, grabs the quarter. So then jumping way to the end, that quarter was his one-up that he got at the end when the whole big bomb killed everyone. But in the book, Parzival was supposed to win that by playing the ultimate game of Pac-Man and beating the game, basically. And I think that would have been a lot cooler to do, to see Parzival like fighting against that game, and he's like putting all this effort and all this time, and then instead he's just given it just because he knew one thing. As we go further on in the movie, there was a big scene where Artemis and Parzival go to a dance. It's all purple and pink, and the music is blasting, and it looked really cool. I really appreciated how they made the zero gravity dance field work. In the book, though, that was supposed to be Agamotto's birthday party, and they were both invited. But this time it was just a dance that they were like, oh, let's go to. Which kind of defeated another purpose, where all the IOI agents come in trying to kill them, and instead of them fighting back or using the Rubik's Cube to turn back time a minute, Agamotto comes in and just kills everyone like that. And that would have been so much cooler and would have given Simon Pegg so much more screen time that he deserved. I did appreciate, though, in that scene how Artemis and Wade then did have that interaction of falling in love with each other, or at least Wade falling in love with Sam. They did a really good job at making that scene happen, because then when Wade goes to Artemis and says that he's in love with her, she freaks out and she's like, nope, we're not doing this. I can't have you in here slowing me down. That was good. That needed to happen, and I'm glad it happened. I'm glad that Ernest Cline made sure that stayed in the movie. So now kind of looking at an overall situation in the book and the movie, the keys and the gates. In the book, it was one key gives you a clue. That clue then brings you to a gate. When you get to that gate, there's another puzzle that brings you to the next key. So the way it worked in the book was you would get a clue, you do a trial to get the copper key. Then once you get the copper key, you get another clue that brings you to the copper gate. And then that copper gate would be a trial to bring you to a clue for then the jade key, and so on and so forth. But the way the movie did it was, here's a clue, here's the key then opens the gate, which has the clue to the next key. And I understand that it might have been to shorten the movie a bit, but that was also a really cool thing that the book did with having clue, trial, clue, trial, clue. A big part of the book too was having a recreation of movies, and the Ready Player One movie did that very well with having the recreation of The Shining. It looked really good. I'm actually very impressed on how it looked for bringing those CGI characters into an older movie and them having recreate the movie, because that was a really important part of the book, was having the characters recreate movies that James Halliday really enjoyed. Now going towards the more realistic world part of the movie, so not in the Oasis. None of the characters were supposed to meet until like the end of the book, and a lot of these characters started meeting halfway through. Also, when Parzival and H met for the first time in the real world, it wasn't as shocking as I really wanted it to be. As for when I read that in the book, I was like, no way, that's amazing, that was such a cool twist. But now it was just like, oh wait, you're H? Oh, okay, cool, let's go on. And it was like, that could have been better. Also, Artemis and Parzival don't meet at all until the last 3 pages of the book. I did appreciate how the IOI was represented. It did seem like this big corporation that's trying to take over the Oasis, and it did a good job at being scary in a way of we're the big bad businessmen. A problem I did have with the IOI was not the IOI itself, but how Sorrento, the leader of the IOI, hired a guy named IROC to hunt down the High Five, when in the book, IROC was a big high school bully, and he was around twice, maybe. Another problem I had with the real world part of the book was how all the characters lived really close to each other when Shoto and Daito lived in Japan. I mean, Parzival, Wade lived in Ohio, and I'm pretty sure Sam lived in the East and H lived in the Midwest, or more in the South. I'm not actually sure, but nobody lived close to each other. But now in this one, everyone's like 10 miles away from each other. Like that kind of, it would have been cooler to show, yeah, this is a whole world. The Oasis is a whole world that anyone can access, and people from across the globe are now coming together for this one purpose. It would have been so much cooler to have that. Also, Daito was supposed to die during one of his just side missions that he was doing. The IOI came to his house, pulled him out of his rig, and threw him off the building. And he died. That didn't happen. He died in the game, but he was supposed to die in real life. That didn't happen. That would have been a big, shock moment to show people this game isn't a game anymore. This is life and death. When Sam and Wade are running away from the IOI as they invade their new base, and Sam gets taken to the IOI, that was actually supposed to be Wade that gets taken away, and I appreciate that they still did it, but it would have been nice for it to happen the way it did in the book, because it was a lot scarier, and it was very, almost Mission Impossible-esque. There's a lot that Wade did, and there wasn't any, foreshadow for it or anything. It kind of just happened. So if they could have done that in the movie, that would have also been really cool too. So I know I've been shitting on this movie a lot, but even though I really loved this movie. With what they had and the rights that they were able to get, they did it well. They were able to give Parzival the DeLorean. They were able to give Sorrento Mechagodzilla at the end. They were able to give H his Iron Giant. And it just overall turned out really well. It's a big nerd movie, and I actually really like it, and I plan on seeing it a second time. So to bring this whole, rant or review to an end, the movie is a good movie. It combines real world and CGI very well. It brings tons of references that a lot of people will understand, and there's always those Easter eggs within Easter eggs to find, and it makes it so much more fun. And that's why I want to see it a second time, to see what I missed. The story overall is a good story, and if you haven't read the book, it's a fantastic story. If you've read the book, like me, it's a terrible story, but I don't think the movie and the book can be compared. It's kind of like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, where the books and the movies are completely different stories, but they have the same overarching story, but they can't be compared to in any way. So to give this movie a score, I would give it a 4 out of 5. It's not 100% perfect because I'm still going to be a little bit biased towards this because of the book, but it was still a really good movie, and I really appreciate what Steven Spielberg was able to bring and bring back from his old films. We here at the QuestBros were not sponsored in any way to review this movie. I just thought it'd be fun to try something different for a movie that I've been excited to see since I read this book, since I heard it was coming out. And now that it's out, I saw it first showing day one. I was like, I gotta give it a review out there. I gotta let the people know what I'm thinking about this book. Maybe we'll have a QuestBros field trip and we'll all go see it and we'll talk about it in a podcast or something. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out all of our other videos that we have out there, our podcasts, Dungeons and Dragons, game playing, whatever. If you guys like this video, make sure to leave a like and a comment, and let us know if you want us to do more movie reviews or game reviews or anything like this, or if we should just keep doing what we're doing. So thank you guys for watching, and have a nice day.